Just give me 1 minute. I'm opening my PowerPoint presentation and then we will start the discussion. So, if I'm audible to all of you, let me start the discussion directly. Uh, till now, I have already briefed you about the various aspects of Islamic law and then the financial transaction, financial contracts. Last 2 3 classes were focused on the the technical part of the financial contract, what financial contract is all about, what are the basic conditions of financial contract, what makes a contract a valid contract, and what makes a contract a non-valid, invalid, void, or rejected contract. This is all what we have discussed at length. There are a few more technicalities, but I skipped that technicality because I will pass on that PowerPoint slides to all of you so that you can see yourself and you can find it out. But the important point that we need to discuss here is the the specific financial contracts that are very important from the point of view of Islamic finance. Although most of the contract, by and large, you have covered in your paper of basics of Islamic finance, and then you got a good opportunity in your internship to practically see what is going on in financial contract. By financial contract, I mean to say the various types of Islamic finance products which are available. Uh, we are following the various types of contract which I have just listed down on my PowerPoint presentation. If you see, we have the contract of sale, a very common type of contract, buying and selling, we call it as simple language. So what are the different contracts of buying and selling? That's important. Then we have a contract of ijara. Then we have a contract of ijara, which we call it as leasing, right? Uh, then at the same time, musharka, mudarba. Then we have kafala, hawala, and then rain. So these are some specific contracts which are available in Islamic finance. I would just go through the contract one by one, and we will discuss it in detail. The various aspects. The focus is on what are the various guidelines given by Sharia. What is the guideline given by the Islamic law to make these contracts valid and to make these contracts invalid. So let me pass on this to the next slide, and then we will discuss. Yes. So as you know that in the list of the contract, the first category is a category of contract of sale, which is in simple language, which is buying and selling. And you all know that the entire contract revolves around the subject matter. So we have the subject matter, which is very important. Now, under this head, we have three basic things that you need to understand about the subject matter, which is given by the Sharia. These are the guidelines which is given by the Islamic law and the Sharia. One is the comparison of the subject matter in terms of its movability, how far it is mobile. That is, whether it is a movable object or whether it is an immovable object. For example, a laptop. So you can move from one place to another place. But for example, a property, for example, a duplex, a complex, a shopping mall, a retail outlet, these are the immovable things. So a comparison between the nature of the subject matter, which is in the form of movable and immovable. Then second point is very important. Fungible versus non-fungible. So can anybody out of you tell me what is this term fungibility stands for? What is fungibility and non-fungibility? What is fungibility?
Sir,
Anybody out of you?
interchangeable or replaceable?
And anybody else, a complete definition of what is fungibility stands for in legal point of view, in legal term, what is fungibility?
So similar.
No, no, it's not similar.
It's a
Nafis, it's some.
comparable.
नहीं नहीं comparable तो है ही. Fungibility in simple language stands for tangibility, and not only tangibility, anything which can be precisely deterministic in nature, which can be measured, which can be counted, which can be seen from the eye. That is what we call it as fungibility, right? So, for example, you have a proper weighing, you have a proper anything which can be weigh out, anything which can be measured, anything which can be calculated. That is what we call it as tangible, fungible. So fungibility is a very important condition imposed by Sharia on subject matter, because if something is infungible, non-fungible, then it is not allowed in Sharia. So you just imagine, for example, somebody is example for giving you for this fungibility is, for example, somebody enter into a contract of of a subject matter where they say that whatever you how for example it is about the bird, number of birds, and they say that how many birds flying in the sky. So nobody can count how many birds flying in the sky. So if you are entering into a contract regarding the birds, and your measurement is number of birds flying in the sky, it is very difficult. Yes, but if you have a proper scale, 100, 50, or 200, or something like that, or quintal, or centimeter, or meter. So if you have a proper unit to measure, then that is known as fungibility of subject matter, which is a very important condition. So please do remember this term. It's a technical term. You will find this term very common in different types of Islamic finance product. Then we have deterministic and indeterministic, very much related to fungibility, something which can be precisely measured, which can be determined, which can be calculated. It is what we call it as. So in short, there are three conditions which are imposed on subject matter. Number one is the nature in terms of its mobility. Number two, in terms of its characteristics of measurement, specification. And number three, proper definition in the form of deterministic. So uncertainty should not be there. So it should be non-probabilistic. It's rather it should be deterministic in it. Now there are certain conditions given by Sharia regarding the contract sale or sale contracts. This is related to all the aspects of contract, and when we talk about the contract, the contracting party, the subject matter, and terms and conditions are very important. So first condition is on contracting parties, that is buying and seller, that is buyer and seller, and legal capacity, legal establishment of buyer and seller, which I have already discussed with you, is very important. Then about the subject matter, it should be Sharia compliant. Non-Sharia compliant commodities are not allowed to transact. There is a proper calculation of risk involved, and there should not be any element of uncertainty. Now, that's two terms are very important: uncertainty and risk. So risk is allowed, because you will not you never have any such type of venture when there is no risk. So risk is allowed, but any element of uncertainty is not allowed. So uncertainty is not allowed at all. Then about the ownership of the commodity, the ownership of the commodity should be very clear. Who owns that commodity? For example, if I am the seller, I am the owner of this laptop. So ownership of the commodity should not be vague, should not be uncertain. There is a clear cut guideline that the ownership of the commodity should be there. Then we have the clear cut conditions on the sale contract, that it should be properly clear, it should be absolute, right? And it should not be combined with any future event. हम कोई भी ऐसा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट डिजाइन नहीं कर सकते जिसके बारे में हम आज श्योर ना हो और हम उसको डिपेंड कर दें फ्यूचर इवेंट्स के ऊपर, जैसे डेरिवेटिव्स होते हैं. Derivatives क्या होते हैं? Derivatives are those products which drives their income from future events. So that is the reason that derivatives are not allowed. Reason is that the Sharia allow, the Islamic law allow only those types of commodity where the return, where the cash outflow or cash inflow, or in simple language, the return is based on the present scenario. It should not be based on the future scenario. Because if you make your thing dependent on future event, then there comes into picture the element of uncertainty. So nothing should be attached to future event, because if you attach to future event, it leads to uncertainty, gharar, which is not allowed. Sale contract primarily focused on the instantaneous sale. That is, buying and selling take place. By instant, there are certain conditions for instant, but right now what you need to understand is that there should be proper conditions about the payment and the delivery. So payment and delivery should governed by proper terms and conditions which are allowed by our Sharia. Yes. So before I move ahead, anything which is out of these three, four conditions which I have discussed, any point which where you need some clarification? Yes. Is this
Sir, instant sale means?
instant sale means that the condition for payment and delivery should be properly mentioned in the contract. Instant doesn't mean that it takes place simultaneously, right? But terms and condition about payment and delivery should be clear.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Hmm. Is this the second last condition is clear, that that the sale should not be dependent on any future event?
Yes, sir.
Hmm. Now let me talk about some of the important sales transaction, sale contract. Yes. So various types of sale contract which are mentioned by Islamic law or the Sharia. The name are itself giving it to you. Once again, I'm repeating that we are passing through the terminology of Islamic finance. And as I have already discussed it with you, that every time when you attend my lecture, I'm sure that you will come across with 5, 10 new terms. I have already given you the mechanism that please note down these 5, 6 terms or 5, 10 terms every day. Keep a list and try to revise them on daily basis. आपको जो भी terms पढ़ाई जा रही हैं उनकी एक list बनाते जाइए, and please make this rule that every day you will go through that at least for 5 to 10 minutes. आप 5 से 10 मिनट बस उस list को रोज देखें. The benefit that you get out of it is that once you pass out from this course, you should understand, you have a technical language, you are well versed with the technical language, and when you go for the interview, when you read any technical document, you are clear about the terminology. Here in this slide, there are many terms which you are coming across for the first time. For example, I don't know whether you have come across with the word muqaida, which stands for barter. Bay, BAY, which is mentioned here, Bay is actually stands for a contract. Like Akhd, we call it as. Bay is also another word for contract, and Bay Mutlaq, that is any type of sell. Bay stand for sale. So any type of sale which take place in lieu of money. तो अगर आप कोई चीज खरीदते हैं पैसा देकर, तो we call it as bay mutlaq. So bay means sale. Surf as is it's sale for money, that is currency transaction, currency exchange. Salam, I will discuss it with you later. You know about this thing, salam a bit. Istisna is a contract of manufacturing. Muraba is a term which you are on. And bay muajjal, that is again sale on deferred payment basis. So bay, I'm using word bay, is a term used in Arabic language for sale. So bay muqaida, bay mutlaq, sarf, salam, istisna, murahaba, and may muajjal. So bear margin. So these are few terms. Let me go through these contracts in the shortest possible time as possible. Try to make you understand this. Yeah. The contract which we call it as salam. I hope you are you some across some way or the other way you have come across with this term salam, where it's a salam is also we call it as where the buyer is a contract of sale where a buyer and seller joint hand together sign a contract. The condition is that the buyer pay the price in full and the delivery of the products take place at a specified date, right? uh, Payment conditions and delivery conditions are the soul of this contract, are the key points of this contract. क्या कंडीशंस हैं, टर्म्स एंड कंडीशन है खरीद और फरोख्त की, सेल एंड परचेज की. दैट इज द अंडरलाइन, दैट इज द बॉटम लाइन feature of this contract. And definitely, when I'm saying that there are certain terms and condition imposed on the payment and there are certain condition imposed on the product, I hope you understand this point. So description of the product is very important. All the conditions which I have discussed about the subject matter are valid here, including the fungibility, movability, description, deterministic in nature. And the same conditions are imposed on payment criteria. आप payment कैसे करेंगे, pricing कैसे करेंगे, that is all you will see in this contract, which come across in the coming slides. Kindly go through this slide, which is very important from the point of view understanding the salam contract. Very important condition about the salam contract is the physical existence of the product. Uh, that is what we have. We make the payment with a condition that we will get the delivery. Although the delivery may not be instantaneous, delivery may take some time to execute, but there is a clear-cut time period which is mentioned in the contract. Like I have mentioned in the contract, payment of period of delivery, it can be 1 month, or it can extend to some more days, few more days. So you know, a margin of few days are also available when the time period is fixed. That is what the flexibility which is given by the Islamic law, right? Uh, but the terms and condition about the timing, about the payment, about the characteristic of the product, about the specification of the product, about the terms and condition of the delivery of the products, all are mentioned in the contract itself. So we have few features about the salam contract which is there. In continuation with the same, there are certain conditions which are available here, like as I have already discussed, the condition regarding the place of delivery is very important, right? In no way the buyer, when once they make the payment, they will take back the payment, right? Although there are certain clause of withdrawal, but you need to fulfill those clause, right? Similarly, we have the guarantee scheme also, which we call it as surety guarantee in this case. And very important thing is that the ownership of the product is transferred from the seller to the buyer. That's very important. So quickly, we have this. I'm just going through these types. We call it as sale transaction, in which I try to cover this salam contract. I have discussed with some important points of the salam contract. Right? These are the few things. Then we have the features of salam contract. Then we have the feature of salam in this case. Let me quickly move to muqaida, which we call it as barter system. I will take up the salam contract with the help of a specific example in the form of case study, right? So that is why I just quickly go through the conditions of this one. Let me talk about the muqaida, which is the barter system. Although it is not in existence right now, but there was a time when this contract was very valid, in which the commodity is transacted in lieu of the other commodity, barter, which we call it as. Bay mutlaq That is when you sell for money, right? So the reason is that you, if you have a money and if you are ready to pay instantaneously, then you can avoid the condition of riba. So in order to avoid the condition of any interest or riba, the on-site payment, the full payment in cash is what we have right now. But in cash doesn't mean that you should have a cash. These days we have a digital transfer. So digital transfer also comes under same definition. The only condition is that you make the payment instantaneously to avoid any condition of interest or riba. Then we have another contract which we call it as istisna, which is an order that you place for manufacturing a particular product according to the description. Like for example, tailor, cobbler, all these are being given to you. There is a comparison between istisna and ijara. Whereas ijara is what we have when we hire the services of a person. Whereas istisna is not that one. Istisna is you sign a contract with a manufacturer, you pay them, and then they deliver it. Now, this slide is very, very important for of you because I have just discussed with you two different types of contracts. Definition wise, it seems very similar, but there is a comparison, right? Salam commodity is treated as a debt because already make the payment. Then in that case, uh, um, you know, when you receive the payment, it is now an obligation from your side to deliver. So it is a sort of a debt, right? Is this now? It's not the ready to use material. What we have done in case of istisna, we it needs some manufacturing. So we have the manufacturing which has been in place. In salam contract, payment is made in advance. While in istisna, it can be divided into different installments. In istisna also, there is no fixed time of delivery, whereas in salam, we have a fixed time of delivery. Now, there are certain conditions on istisna in terms of the kind, quantity, and quality of the product, right? Uh, we have also terms and condition in terms of the performance of the commodity. As I've already discussed, completion and the delivery time is not fixed in istisna, whereas in case of salam, it is already specified. We have a contract. Salam is a contract where manufacturer needs to transfer the product in a specific duration of time, whereas in istisna, as such, there is no fixed time to deliver. It depends upon the job completion. Uh, let me talk about this one, which we have here. The application of istisna in Islamic banking. For example, the construction of a house or a factory at a client site. The client and the owner sign a contract. Then similarly, the infrastructure projects, like there was a time when the digging of well and the canals, they are also very important contracts. So point is that istisna is a very common contract in agriculture sector. So a lot of projects in agriculture sector can be handled with istisna, and the same is with number of other infrastructure projects like development of a house or a factory. So primarily, two types of contract which I have discussed with you is istisna and salam, which are quite similar, but there is a difference also, and these difference being discussed with this comparison between the two. So what I will do, I will pass on this PowerPoint slides to all of you on the grip itself. First, go through this slide, right? And then, inshallah, tomorrow I will discuss with the help of the specific example, the comparison of istisna and salam, and also we'll take it up murhaba and musharaka. Fine. So with this, I would like to conclude today's session, and I will inform you about tomorrow's session with specific time. ठीक है?
सर
Thank you, sir.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर
खुदा हाफिज सर।
बताइए अब्दुल अहद, बताइए।
सर मुझे कुछ डिस्कस करना था आपसे।
बताइए बताइए।
सर मुझे अपना करियर इस्लामिक बैंकिंग में परस्यू करना है, लेकिन सर कैंपस में तो कोई इससे रिलेटेड कोई कंपनी आ नहीं रही है, तो आप कुछ रिकमेंड कर देते कि मतलब मुझे इसी फील्ड में स्टार्ट करना है ना करियर अपना, इस्लामिक बैंकिंग फाइनेंस की फील्ड में, तो कुछ आप गाइड कर देते।
आपने ट्रेनिंग कहाँ करी?
मल्टीगेन मुरादाबाद।
ठीक है। अभी उस पे प्लेसमेंट पे आप आगे बात करेंगे। अभी तो ट्रेनिंग कंप्लीट कर लीजिए, प्रोजेक्ट्स अपने सबमिट
Okay.
करिए। उस पे वी हैव अ सेपरेट सेशन, वी हैव सम प्लान फॉर यू, विल डिस्कस।
ओके सर, ओके, थैंक यू।
Sir, can you please share these slides with us on WhatsApp? We can revise so that we can revise.
मैं अभी कर देता हूँ, निराला भी, जस्ट सेंड।
Okay, sir.